I never thought I'd be the kind of person to believe in any of this. My name is Alex Harper. I'm 32, a graphic designer living in a quiet suburb just outside Portland. I've always been the skeptic, the one who rolls their eyes at ghost stories and scrolls past those late-night TikTok videos about demons. But that changed the night we found the Ouija board in my grandma's old attic. It was a rainy Friday evening last October. My best friend, Jordan, and I were clearing out the house after she passed. The place smelled like old books and lavender sachets, the kind of comforting scent that makes you forget how empty a home can feel. We'd been drinking cheap wine, laughing about childhood memories, when Jordan pulled this dusty wooden board from a cardboard box. "Look at this," she said, holding it up. The letters were faded but still legible. The planchette, a worn heart-shaped piece of wood with a little glass window in the center. "Your grandma must have been into some weird shit." I laughed it off at first. Probably just a game she never played. But Jordan was always the adventurous one. She insisted we try it, for nostalgia. I didn't want to seem like a buzzkill, so I agreed. We cleared the kitchen table, lit a couple of candles because the power flickered once or twice during the storm, and placed our fingers lightly on the planchette. Nothing happened at first. We asked silly questions. Is anyone there? What's your name? Giggling like idiots. Then, slowly, the planchette started to move. It slid toward yes. Jordan swore she wasn't pushing it. I wasn't either. We both felt the resistance, like something was guiding it against our will. It spelled out a name, Elias. We asked if Elias was a good spirit. The planchette jerked to N-O. Then it moved faster, HLPME. Jordan pulled her hands away, eyes wide. Okay, that's enough for tonight. But I was curious, stupidly curious. I kept my fingers on it alone for a second. It spelled one more thing, YOUWILLSE. We packed it away and didn't talk about it much. That night, I slept in my old childhood bedroom upstairs. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of scratching, not on the walls under the floorboards, like fingernails dragging slowly across wood. I told myself it was the house settling or rats. But when I went downstairs the next morning, the Ouija board was on the kitchen table. I'd left it in the attic box. Jordan had already gone home, so I texted her. She said she didn't touch it. I laughed nervously and put it back, this time locking the attic door. The next few days were normal. Work deadlines, coffee runs, scrolling through my phone. But little things started happening. My keys would move from the hook by the door to the center of the dining table. The TV would turn on by itself to static. One evening, while I was cooking pasta, I heard a child's voice whisper my name from the hallway. Alex. It sounded far away, like it was coming through water. I checked every room. Nothing. I called Jordan over again that weekend. She brought sage, because her cousin had told her it cleanses energy. We burned it and laughed about how dumb we were being. Then we pulled out the board again. This time, Elias was clearer. He said he was a boy who died in this house in the 1920s, drowned in the old well out back. He asked us to help him find peace. We asked how. The planchette spelled F-R-E-M-E. Jordan got cold feet. This feels wrong, Alex. Let's stop. But I felt bad for this supposed kid. I kept going after she left. Night after night, Elias told me stories how his father had locked him in the basement during storms, how the well was covered up but still there under the overgrown backyard. He said I was the first person who could hear him in decades. The scratching under the floor grew louder. I started finding wet footprints on the hardwood small, child-sized, leading from the basement door to my bed. The house felt heavier, like the air had weight. My sleep turned into fragments, dreams of dark water closing over my head, of pale hands reaching up from the bottom of a well. I'd wake up gasping, my sheets damp with sweat that smelled faintly of mildew. One night, about 2 weeks in, Elias asked me a question. "Do you trust me?" I said yes. The planchette moved on its own after that, without my fingers. It spelled my full name, my birthday, things no one else knew. Then, IAMINYOUNOW. I jerked my hands back. The board went still, but something inside me felt off, like a second heartbeat, faint and cold, in the back of my skull. I started having blackouts. Short ones at first 5 minutes where I'd blink and find myself in a different room, not remembering how I got there. Then longer. I'd come to in the backyard at 4 a.m., barefoot in the mud, staring at the spot where the old well used to be. My hands were dirty, like I'd been digging. Jordan noticed I looked like hell. Dark circles, twitching at small sounds. She suggested therapy. I told her I was fine, but I wasn't. Elias started talking to me even without the board. His voice was inside my head, now soft, innocent, but with an edge that made my stomach twist. He'd tell me secrets about my life I'd forgotten. The time I stole money from my mom's purse when I was 10, the fight I had with my ex that ended our relationship. Things that made me feel exposed, raw. Everyone leaves you, he'd whisper while I tried to work. But I won't. I'm family now. The horror crept in slowly, like mold behind wallpaper. I started seeing him, not fully, just glimpses. A small shape in the corner of the mirror when I brushed my teeth. A pale face reflected in the dark TV screen behind me. Once, while showering, I felt tiny cold hands on my shoulders, pushing me forward into the water stream. I screamed and slipped, cracking my elbow on the tile. The water ran red for a second before I realized it was just my blood. I tried to destroy the board. I took it outside and burned it in the fire pit. The wood wouldn't catch. It just sat there, charring slightly, while Elias laughed in my head. "You can't burn what's already inside." That was when I realized I wasn't in control anymore. My body would move without me. I'd wake up to find drawings on the walls, crude pictures of a boy at the bottom of a well, reaching up, with my name written underneath in my own handwriting. Bloody scratches appeared on my arms overnight, spelling out "stay." Jordan came over unannounced one evening after I stopped answering texts. She found me sitting at the kitchen table with the charred Ouija board, fingers on the planchette even though it was half ash. My eyes were bloodshot. I don't remember her arriving, but I remember what Elias made me say. "He's mine now. Leave." Jordan ran. I don't blame her. I tried to follow, to explain, but my legs wouldn't move right. It felt like strings pulling me back toward the basement door. The final night came during another storm. The power went out completely. I sat in the dark living room, flashlight in hand, whispering to Elias to leave me alone. He didn't answer with words anymore. Instead, my own voice came out of my mouth, but it wasn't mine. It was higher, younger. "You promised to help me, Alex. You said yes." I felt my body stand up and walk downstairs. The basement was flooded from the rainwater seeping in from somewhere. In the beam of the flashlight, I saw the outline of an old well cover I'd never noticed before, pried up slightly. Muddy handprints around it. My handprints. I fought it. I really did. I dropped the flashlight and clawed at the stairs, trying to crawl back up. But my fingers dug into the wood as my legs dragged me toward the water. The voice Elias kept talking through my mouth. "It's cold down here, but you'll get used to it. We can play forever." The water was freezing. It closed over my ankles, then my knees. I screamed, but the sound that came out was laughter, childlike and echoing. As I went under, I saw him. Not a boy. Something wearing a boy's shape. Eyes too old, Smile too wide, teeth like broken glass. It wasn't a ghost. It was older, hungrier. It had been waiting in that well for someone kind enough, lonely enough, to invite it in. I don't know how long I was under. When I came to, I was on the basement floor, coughing up dirty water. The storm had passed. Sunlight filtered through the tiny window. My phone was ringing upstairs, Jordan, probably. But I couldn't move. My limbs felt heavy, disconnected. That was 3 days ago. I've been writing this on my laptop in bursts, whenever I have control. My reflection in the screen shows my face, but the eyes aren't right anymore. Sometimes they blink when I don't. Elias doesn't hide now. He walks around in my body while I watch from the passenger seat. He eats when he wants. He sleeps when he wants. He's been texting Jordan from my phone, telling her I'm fine, that I'm going on a trip. Last night, he made me dig in the backyard again. Deeper this time. I think he wants a new home. Or maybe more friends. If you're reading this, please don't look for me. Don't come to the house. And whatever you do, never touch a Ouija board. Not even as a joke. Some doors only open one way. And once something steps through, it doesn't leave. It just waits for the next person foolish enough to say hello. I can feel him stirring again. My fingers are typing slower. He wants to finish this story his way. Goodbye. Or maybe see you soon. The scratching has started again. This time, it's coming from inside my chest. I never believed in Ouija boards. Even now, after everything that happened, part of me still tries to convince myself there was a logical explanation. Maybe stress. Maybe coincidence. Maybe our minds filled in the blanks. But there are a few things I can't explain. This happened in October of 2024. My best friend, Ryan, had just moved into his late grandfather's house after inheriting it. It was an old place, quiet, surrounded by farmland, and filled with furniture that looked like it hadn't been moved in decades. One evening, while cleaning the basement, Ryan found a wooden Ouija board hidden inside an old trunk. It wasn't store-bought. The letters were hand-carved, and the board was covered in tiny burn marks as if someone had held candles over it for years. I joked that we should sell it online. Ryan had a different idea. Let's see if it actually works. There were only 3 of us that night: Ryan, me, and his cousin, Melissa. We sat around the dining room table with a single candle in the middle. Rain tapped against the windows while the wind rattled the old house. Ryan placed the planchette on the board. Is anyone here with us? Nothing happened. He smiled. Told you. Then the planchette slowly slid to yes. I immediately accused Ryan of pushing it. He swore he wasn't. Melissa looked just as nervous as I felt. Ryan asked another question. What is your name? The planchette moved one letter at a time. E-L-I. No last name. Just Eli. Ryan laughed. Did you live here? The answer came almost instantly. Yes. I asked, how did you die? The planchette froze. For nearly 20 seconds, it didn't move. Then it slowly drifted to behind. We all looked at each other. Ryan laughed again. Behind what? The planchette circled wildly before stopping. You. Melissa screamed. Not because of the board. Because she'd seen someone standing behind Ryan. We all turned at the same time. There was nobody there. Ryan burst out laughing. Melissa insisted she'd seen a tall man standing in the doorway. We told her she imagined it. We packed up the board and went to bed. Or at least we tried. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up to footsteps outside my bedroom. Slow. Heavy. They stopped directly outside my door. I assumed Ryan was getting water. Then I heard 3 knocks. Not loud. Just knock, knock, knock. I opened the door immediately. The hallway was empty. The footsteps started again. Only now they were downstairs. walking across the wooden floor, back and forth, until sunrise. The next morning, Ryan admitted he'd heard them too. Melissa refused to stay another night. She left before lunch. Ryan and I stayed. That evening, we found the Ouija board sitting on the dining room table. Neither of us had taken it out of the box. Ryan blamed me. I blamed him. Eventually, we threw it back into the basement and locked the door. That should have been the end. Instead, things became worse. Doors that we'd locked would be standing open. Lights switched on by themselves. Cabinets left hanging wide open. But the strangest thing was the photographs. Ryan's grandfather had dozens of framed family pictures around the house. Every morning, one more photograph would be turned backward, never fallen over, never broken, just facing the wall. By the fourth day, every single photograph in the house had turned itself around. Ryan finally suggested we leave for a few days. As we packed the car, I realized I'd forgotten my phone upstairs. The house was silent. Too silent. I ran to the bedroom, grabbed my phone, and started back down the hallway. That's when I noticed a man standing at the far end. Tall, thin, gray shirt, hands hanging at his sides. His face was completely hidden in shadow. I froze. He didn't move. Neither did I. Then he slowly lifted one hand and pointed behind me. I spun around. Nothing. When I looked back, the hallway was empty. I ran downstairs so fast I nearly fell. Ryan saw my face and didn't ask questions. We left immediately. Neither of us has ever gone back. The house still belongs to Ryan. He refuses to sell it. Not because he wants to keep it. Because every real estate agent who's visited has quit after the first showing. They never explain why. They simply refuse to enter the property again. Last month, Ryan called me. Someone had broken into the house. The police searched every room. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was damaged. But in the dining room, sitting neatly in the center of the table, was the Ouija board. The planchette rested on a single word: welcome. I don't expect anyone to believe me. Honestly, if someone had told me this story a few years ago, I would have laughed, called it fake, and moved on. I used to think Ouija boards were just cardboard toys sold around Halloween to make money off gullible people. Now, I won't even say the word goodbye without looking over my shoulder. My name is Aaron, and this happened during my final year of college in 2023. There were 5 of us renting an old farmhouse just outside a small town in Pennsylvania. It was cheap because the owner couldn't sell it after years of failed renovations. The house was over 100 years old, surrounded by woods, with no neighbors for almost half a mile. Perfect for college students. Or so we thought. It started on a rainy Friday night. The power had gone out for almost 2 hours. Our phones were nearly dead, and we had already finished every card game we owned. Then Jake disappeared upstairs. When he came back down, he was carrying a dusty wooden box. Look what I found in the attic. Inside was an old Ouija board. Not the colorful Hasbro one. This one looked handmade. Dark wood. Letters burned into the surface instead of painted. The planchette wasn't plastic. It was carved from bone. I remember Emily joking, "That's probably worth money." Jake grinned. "Or haunted." We all laughed. That should have been the moment we put it back. Instead, we lit candles. None of us knew the rules. We only knew what horror movies had taught us. Don't play alone. Don't ask when you'll die. Always say goodbye. Simple enough. Or so we believed. The room was silent except for rain hitting the windows. 5 fingers rested lightly on the planchette. Jake asked, "Is anyone here?" "Nothing." He laughed. "Told you." Then, the planchette moved. Barely. Just enough that everyone accused everyone else of pushing it. It slid too. Yes. Emily pulled her hand away. "Nope." Jake laughed again. Who's moving it? Nobody answered, because every single one of us thought someone else had done it. Jake asked another question. What's your name? The planchette began moving faster. L-U-C-I. Not Lucifer. Not Lucy. Just Lucy. Then it stopped. Jake smiled. Cool. He asked, how old are you? The board didn't answer. Instead, every candle went out. All at once. Not flickered. Not dimmed. Extinguished. The room became completely dark. Then, the power came back. Every light in the house turned on simultaneously. The board sat perfectly still. We all laughed nervously. Coincidence. Had to be, right? Things changed the next morning. Emily couldn't find her necklace. It was a silver cross she'd worn every day since she was a kid. We searched everywhere. Nothing. 3 days later, we found it. Inside the freezer. Frozen into a block of ice. Nobody admitted putting it there. That night, I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow. Heavy. Like someone wearing boots. I assumed Jake was getting water. The footsteps continued for nearly 20 minutes. The next morning I asked him. He looked confused. I slept downstairs. I asked everyone else. Nobody had gone upstairs. Then the knocking started. Always 3 knocks. Never 2. Never 4. 3. Bedroom door. Bathroom wall. Kitchen window. 3 slow knocks. Pause. Silence. The first few times we'd open the door. Nobody. Eventually we ignored them. Until one night. The knocks came from inside my closet. 3 slow taps. I opened it immediately. Empty. Except every shirt hanging inside was swinging. Like someone had just pushed through them. Sleep became impossible. Every night I'd wake up at exactly 3:18 a.m. Every single night. Sometimes because I heard whispering. Sometimes because I felt someone standing beside my bed. One night, I opened my eyes. There was a woman standing in the corner. Tall, hair covering her face. She wasn't moving. I blinked. She disappeared. I convinced myself it was sleep paralysis. Until, the next morning, there were muddy footprints in the corner where she'd been standing. Bare feet, too large to belong to Emily. Jake was the first to change. He stopped joking, stopped smiling. He'd stare at empty walls for hours, sometimes whispering. When we asked who he was talking to, he'd answer, "She doesn't like when you interrupt." We assumed he was messing with us. Until one afternoon, he asked us a question. "Have any of you been standing outside my bedroom window at night?" His room was on the 2nd floor. There wasn't even a balcony. The smell came next. Rotting meat. Randomly. One room would stink so badly we'd gag. 5 minutes later, nothing. Perfectly normal. The odor moved around the house like it was alive. Emily wanted to leave. Jake refused. He kept insisting. "She just wants us to finish the game." None of us understood what he meant. We had finished it. Or, at least we thought we had. That's when Sarah asked, "Did anyone actually say goodbye?" Silence. Nobody remembered. We'd simply stood up after the lights came back. The board was still sitting exactly where we'd left it. In the basement. None of us wanted to touch it. That evening, we decided to end it properly. 5 candles. Same board. Same room. Jake looked excited. Too excited. Almost relieved. We placed our fingers on the planchette. Sarah whispered, "We'd like to say goodbye." Nothing happened. Then, the planchette shot across the board. Faster than any human hand could move. No. Again. No. Again. No. Jake started laughing. Not his normal laugh. Deep. Forced. Like someone trying to imitate him. He whispered, "She doesn't want you to leave." Then his eyes rolled upward. Only the whites were visible. Emily screamed. Jake collapsed onto the floor. Every light exploded. literally exploded. Glass everywhere. The room went completely dark. Except the candles. Their flames had turned green. We ran. Not walked. Ran. Leaving Jake behind. I still hate myself for that. But fear makes you selfish. By the time police arrived, Jake was sitting calmly on the porch. Completely normal. He claimed we'd all been drinking. The officers found nothing unusual. No broken lights. No shattered glass. No green candle flames. Nothing. Except the Ouija board. It was gone. We moved out within 2 days. Never spoke again. At least, that's what I thought. 6 months later, Sarah died in a car accident. Or, that's what the news said. The crash photos bothered me. Her car hadn't hit a tree. It had wrapped itself around a telephone pole as if something had twisted the metal by hand. The police blamed speed. A year later, Emily disappeared. No body. No phone. Nothing. Just gone. Jake killed himself. At least, that's what everyone believes. The coroner reported extensive scratches across his back, perfectly parallel, like fingernails, too deep to have been self-inflicted. His apartment walls were covered with one sentence, repeated hundreds of times. We never said goodbye. That left me. I moved across the country, changed my phone number, changed jobs, never told anyone. Life slowly returned to normal for almost 2 years. Then, last Tuesday, I came home from work. Someone had left a package on my porch. No return address. Inside was my old silver lighter, the one I'd forgotten in that farmhouse. Underneath it, a folded note. Only 3 words. Ready to finish? There was no signature. Just one burned symbol. The exact same symbol carved into the center of that Ouija board. I threw everything into the fireplace, watched it burn. The next morning, the lighter was back on my kitchen table, perfectly clean, untouched. I haven't slept since. Every night, 3 knocks, always at 3:18 a.m., always from a different wall. Sometimes, I hear Jake laughing, sometimes Emily crying, sometimes, a woman's voice whispers through the heating vents. Not loudly, just enough to hear. Last night, she finally said my name. Not Aaron. She used a nickname only my late grandmother ever called me. Nobody else knows it. Nobody. People tell me grief can make you hallucinate. Stress can create false memories. Sleep deprivation causes paranoia. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've lost my mind. I hope that's the truth. Because if it isn't, then she's still waiting. Waiting for someone to put their fingers on that planchette one last time. So we can finally say goodbye. I never believed in ghosts. My name is Maya Torres, 24, a barista in Chicago trying to finish my night classes. Last month, during a stupid apartment party with my roommate Lena and a few friends, someone brought out an old Ouija board they found at a thrift store. It looked cheap plastic, with glow-in-the-dark letters, but the group was drunk and bored. "Come on, Maya," Lena laughed, pulling me onto the floor. "It's just a game." We dimmed the lights and put our fingers on the planchette. At first, it was all jokes. "Who's here? Are you hot?" Then it moved. Slowly at first, then faster. It spelled SERH. We asked questions. Sarah said she was 17 when she died in this building back in the 90s. Overdose in apartment 4B, the one right below us. She seemed sad, lonely. We felt bad for her. I asked if she needed help. The planchette slid to yes. That was my mistake. The party ended and everyone left. But that night, I woke up to whispering, soft, right by my ear. "Thank you, Maya." I thought it was a dream. The next morning, my coffee mug was moved across the counter. Small things. I ignored them. By the third night, Sarah wouldn't stop. She spoke through the board whenever I touched it, which I did more than I should have. She told me about her shitty boyfriend, how he left her to die. She asked about my life, my fights with my mom, my fear of failing school. It felt good to have someone listen without judgment. Then the dream started. I was in a dark room, needles on the floor, a girl with hollow eyes reaching for me. I'd wake up sweating, heart pounding. My phone started showing texts from unknown numbers. Don't leave me alone. Once, my camera rolled by itself in my room, capturing nothing but an empty corner. Lena noticed I was off. You look exhausted. Put that board away. I tried. I hid it in the closet. But the next evening, it was back on my bed. The planchette pointed at NO. Sarah got angry when I ignored her. Cabinets slammed at night. My reflection in the bathroom mirror would lag for a second like it was deciding whether to copy me. One morning, I found scratches on my arms. Stay with me. I stopped going to class. Work became impossible. I'd zone out and hear her voice in my head, clear as day. They all leave, but I won't. You invited me. Last week, I burned the board in the alley behind the building. The plastic melted, but the letters stayed visible in the ash. That night, I woke up standing in the hallway, holding a bottle of pills from the medicine cabinet. My own hand was unscrewing the cap. Sarah's voice came out of my mouth. It's easier this way. We can be together forever. I dropped the pills and ran to Lena's room, shaking. She called 911, but by the time they got here, I was calm again. Too calm. I told them I was fine. Sarah made me smile and say it was just stress. I'm writing this on my phone right now, locked in the bathroom while Lena sleeps. My hands keep typing even when I try to stop. She's getting stronger. I can feel her like cold fingers wrapping around my thoughts. If you find this, don't use a Ouija board. Not for fun, not for curiosity. Some things pretend to be lost girls. They wait for you to open the door and say hello. She's telling me to delete this. My finger is hovering over the button. I don't know how much longer I have. Sarah says hi.